Hey everyone, we are going to continue learning about how your brain works. But before we learn something new, we have to review, which means go over what we've already learned. We learned about our three main brain parts right here, and we also learned about how our brain pays attention. And we're going to go over the first area right there, that blue area, that is our prefrontal cortex, PFC for short, and that's going to help us to be a wise leader. It's going to help us to solve problems and do challenging things and really think things through before we do. Repeat after me. I think things through before I do. Your turn. I think things through before I do. Okay, that PFC is located right up front, right behind your forehead, and it helps you to be in charge of yourself and to be a smart leader. So go ahead and point to your forehead just like you're large and in charge soldier, and repeat after me. PFC, wise leader of me. Our next area we learned about was that hippocampus, the green area right there, and that saves all of your memories. Your memories are all tucked away back there, and if you see, there are those little roads that go back and forth between the hippocampus and the PFC because you use what you already know to learn new things and to make your brain grow. And your hippocampus is located deep inside the back area of your brain. So let's go ahead and point back there right now and repeat after me. Hippocampus, memory saver. Okay, our third area that we learned about in the brain is that area located right in the middle of the brain. It acts like a security guard, and it's in the middle of your brain to ask all that information. Is this safe information or is this dangerous information? The information it gets is from your five senses. Everything you see, smell, taste, hear, or touch or feel gets up to the brain, and the amygdala stands there like a security guard. It's there to protect you and keep you safe and alive. That's why it asks all the information, is this safe information or is this dangerous? If it's safe information, the amygdala sends it through to the rest of the brain so you can really think about it. And it helps you to stay calm in the brain too when you're having safe things around you going on that you're sensing. Your amygdala, if it finds out that something is dangerous around you, it's going to shake everything up in the brain, and it's going to shake everything up in the body, and your air is going to leave your brain when that happens. Your amygdala puts your brain on lockdown, just like if we had a stranger that was maybe dangerous in our school building, which would be very rare, but at the same time, we would need to make sure we had something in place to keep everybody safe and alive. And that is why we do those lockdown drills. Well, your brain does the same thing. When you are in a lockdown in your brain, your amygdala puts the PFC on lockdown and the hippocampus on lockdown. So it's lights out and air out of the PFC and the hippocampus. And you can't think straight. That's why you can't remember things if you're feeling scared or if you're feeling worried or nervous about something. And that's why it's so important to calm down the brain by doing those belly breaths, breathing in slowly, filling up the belly with air, and breathing out slowly, because that's going to get air back into the brain again when you focus on your deep breaths, your belly breathing. Our amygdala, like I said, is located deep inside the middle part of the brain, and it acts like a security guard. So let's go ahead and put our hand on top of our head just like this and repeat after me. Amygdala, security guard. Okay, that was our third area in the brain. We learned about how our brain pays attention. This area right here, anybody remember what it's called? We say it like a robot. It's the reticular activating system. Say it with me. Reticular activating system. Yes, your reticular activating system works like a filter in your brain to help you to pay attention. All the information from your five senses gets into the RAS. That's what we shorten it to. Reticular starts with R. Activating starts with A. System starts with S. It gets into the brain, and your RAS is going to ask the information, are you important or not? If you're important information, the information gets through to the rest of the brain so you can think about it, focus on it, and if it's not important, it traps it, and it trashes it, and you never get the information. So maybe if your parents were calling you while you were playing your video games, you're like, wait, I didn't hear them say my name. I didn't hear them calling me, because you were so focused on maybe your video game. I did that all the time. My mom used to call me a space cadet because I'd be out in La La Land doing something or watching TV, and I had no clue what was going on around the house because my RAS was trashing all the other information. It was letting through maybe the TV information. The way that we remember this, we hold out our hands just like this. Repeat after me. RAS. Let's through the best. And trashes the rest. That was our fourth area that we learned about. We are going to learn about two chemicals in your brain and throughout your body that happen when you are calm in your brain, and the opposite happens when your brain's in that lockdown mode, when you're feeling all frazzled, bedazzled, like I call it. Our first thing that we're going to learn about, our first chemical, is called Mr. Dopamine. Dopamine is our feel-good, calm, focusing chemical in our brain. It's our peaceful, happy chemical. And this little chemical is called a neurotransmitter. So it's a type of neurotransmitter, just like you might be a student, but you might be an elementary student. You're a type of student. This is a type of neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter is a big word. We're going to break that down. Neuro just means brain. Transmitter just means sender. So these are brain senders in the brain. When you have a lot of dopamine, you have a lot of happy, feel-good brain senders, and that's a good place to be if you're trying to focus and do work and be at your best. This little dopamine, the PFC is in charge when you have a lot of dopamine. And when you're at school, you want to make sure that you're nice and calm, or if you're at home learning, you want to make sure you're nice and calm and have a lot of dopamine. So how do you get a lot of dopamine? You do something that brings you happiness and joy with one of your five senses. So, for example, I love to go on a color walk, and I love to look. I go outside, and I love to look for different colors, and that brings me happiness and joy. Or maybe I like to make some chocolate chip cookies and bake them in the oven, and it smells so good, and that releases dopamine in my brain. That's going to help me to focus and be at my best. We have a little rhyme that goes along with dopamine, but first I'm going to hang up our little dopamine poster here. I did my best to draw a little picture of dopamine with his frazzled hair, and I call his baby's happy hair. Okay, so the dopamine rhyme goes like this. I'm going to say it 2 times, and then you're going to repeat after me, okay? Dopamine feels so good and helps my focus sing. I'm going to say it one more time, and then you can repeat. Dopamine feels so good and helps my focus sing. Your turn. Dopamine feels so good and helps my focus sing. Okay, now we're ready for the opposite. The opposite is released when your amygdala is in charge. When your amygdala is in charge, it releases this hormone, which is a type of chemical in your brain. And this hormone right here, we're going to call him Mr. Cortisol. Let's say hello, Mr. Cortisol. Say it with me. Hello, Mr. Cortisol. Cortisol is released, like I said, when that amygdala puts your brain into lockdown mode. When your brain's in lockdown mode, remember, lights out in the PFC, lights out in the hippocampus, we feel all shaken up and we can't think straight, we can't remember, and that's the time to do that belly breathing. And when you have a lot of cortisol, that's when your brain sends out all of that crazy energy into your body. The cortisol is the chemical, the hormone that's sent out to the rest of your body that shakes it up. So this is the reason your body gets all shaken up when that happens. Or when you feel like nervous and your hands start shaking. That's a good example of that. So cortisol, we have a little rhyme for cortisol, and it goes like this. Cortisol freaks me out, no focusing at all. I'm going to say it one more time, and then you're going to repeat. Cortisol freaks me out, no focusing at all. Your turn. Cortisol freaks me out, no focusing at all. You can't focus when you got a lot of that cortisol. We're going to go ahead and hang up the little cortisol poster. Cortisol has no hair. We'll hang that up right next to the amygdala. Right there. So when your prefrontal cortex is in charge, you have a lot of dopamine. When your amygdala is in charge, you have a lot of cortisol. If you want to be at your best during learning times, you really want to make sure you have a lot of dopamine and have that PFC in charge. That's all I have for today, and I just wanted to say, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching.